Okay, so you can see here, I've recessed my woofers. Okay, so there's two pieces of wood here. One of them is cut out a little bit bigger than the outside because you want the carpet to be able to go in there. The other one is cut out perfectly for the cutout diameter. And I've done it all using this jig right here. The way I actually do this is that before I even cut out anything, once I got the top two pieces ready to go on, that's when I start. So I'll set my Jasper jig. This one was used for a different video, but I'll set it to where there's just a little bit more than 3/4 inches sticking out. This one is inch. So I'll take that back just a little bit, and that way I can cut all the way through the plywood, but I'm not riding on that bearing right there. Then you'll notice there's all these different holes in the plate here. You see which ones I've used most often depending on what I'm cutting out. So oftentimes what I'll do is I'll actually take all the pieces of wood before I glue them together, and I'll put these two pieces together here, and I'll run a brad nail through, say, the corners or whatever. That just holds them together. And then what I'm gonna do is wherever I'm gonna mark these out, I'll mark the lines out. I'll put the little dot. Okay, that's my center, because when you're cutting with a Jasper jig, you don't go by the outside, you go by the center. So instead of cutting this with a jigsaw right here, which you could do, I cut it with the center. So I'll mark the actual exact center of the woofer right here. And then what I'll do is I'll run a pilot bit, a little bitty drill bit, all the way through both pieces in both spots, or however many you have. That will give me a little divot hole on the top piece and the bottom piece. Okay, then I take those two pieces and I separate them. Then on the one piece I'll measure, I'll say inside, the other one I'll write on it, say outside. So the inside I will measure, because I've realized that these numbers are based on a 1/4 inch blade, but I noticed that the 1/2 inch blades last a bit longer and they don't flex near as much. So what I do is I measure from the outside here over half the distance. So if it's 9 inches, I measure from here to whatever 4.5 inches is, and I will follow it along, and I'll find, okay, this one here, for example, might be 4.5 inches. So I will go there. Then I'll cut those two out, the inside. Then I'll come around and I'll find the outside, say it's 10.25 inches for whatever reason. Then I'll come out here and I'll measure from here to, say, you can see the next one up here. There's a couple of them, right? And then I'll say I'll pick whatever one of these lines up to the outside dimension plus a little bit. I go an 1/8 inch over for the outside. This is what an 1/8 inch over looks like. So don't be thinking it needs to be super tight, because with an 1/8 inch, you can't even see in the hole there with the carpet, and it fits perfectly all the way around. So this is 1/8 inch bigger around the outside and exact dimension on the inside. So that's all I do is I run a pilot bit through both pieces, and then I will simply cut two different size diameters running that same pilot. Okay, then once I go and I actually glue them together, those two rings are stacked up perfectly on top of each other, and you don't have, trying to scoot it one way or trying to eyeball it or whatever, because eyeballing it just never really works out. Your inside hole is always going to be scooted a little bit off or whatever. So I'll tell you another trick. In one truck, I cut this out like that, and I left a little gap in the middle here, so the outside beauty panel didn't go all the way through, and I carpeted this whole inside piece here. All I did was, once I had all this cut out, I just marked this out with, say, something round. I put it on here, laid it here, and then I marked that. I just cut that out with a jigsaw, sanded it flat, and you're good to go. Also, one more trick. This may be controversial, but you can see here how the carpet kind of just folds down in there like that. Okay, it looks all nice and pretty. Here's another one. Okay, it looks like the speaker kind of just sinks down in there. It doesn't really, it doesn't really look like it's out of place. It looks perfectly like it's meant to be. Even though the hole's a little bit deeper than the outside of the woofer, you can see it doesn't look, it looks like it's supposed to. All I do is I take just my sander and I sand that down. I don't use a Roundover or nothing. I just put a nice round little edge on there with the sander. No router, no tools, nothing. Just sand that down, and that's the result it gives you. So you don't have to spend all the extra time changing your bits out on the router for, an 1/8 inch Roundover or 1/4 inch, because all you need to do is just sand that if you're putting carpet on it. But yeah, that's how I get this result here. using nothing more than this Jasper jig and a little bit of technique. And like I said, you could use whatever bit you want here, but also for this technique I use this one here. Okay, see it's got the teeth on the bottom, it doesn't have the bearing on the bottom, because what I'll actually do, this is my next tip, is when I put this on the wood, okay, I'll actually put a pretty long screw right here. Okay, what I'll do is here's just a cardboard Amazon box, but this is what I do, and it works out pretty well, especially if you're doing this a lot. Okay, I'll set that bit right there. It's not gonna be as far out as this one. I'll set it on top. Okay, I'll start my screw. I get a pretty long screw, about 1 5/8. I'll start it down in the hole, and I'll use my little drill right here. I'll turn this on and kind of hover it above there, and I'll set it down as I drill that screw in just a little bit. Or you can get one of those ones with the real long shank on it. Okay, and you can just start it all the way down to where you have nothing but the shank up. All right, like a 3-inch screw. You can literally just set that on there. Then once you turn it on, once you set it down into the wood, it'll cut all the way down flush into the wood, and you don't have to worry about a starter hole or anything. You just plunge it straight down like that. And then once it's on there, you just twirl it on around and you're good to go. Also, another trick, once I finish the cut, once I hit the last little bit of the cut, I'll kind of support this to prevent that center piece from knocking over like that. Okay, sometimes I'll actually just stop it towards the end and come back and finish the rest up, because sometimes it'll leave a little booger on the end. So I'll actually stop it and I'll just come back and do it by hand or sand it. But what I like to do is, once I've finished the cut, I'll take this and I'll push it. Say I finished the cut and it's in front of me like this. I'll push it straight away like that, away from me. Okay, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get that blade away from the surface I just cut out. Okay, so it's going to take that round piece of scrap is going to be right here. It's going to be attached right here. Okay, so I take that whole piece, it's riding up against that blade. Okay, so what I do is I take that, there's a gap, and I push it away from me, and I'll let it stop. Then I'll pull it out, because if you try to just take it and pull it out afterward, it's gonna, it has a chance to booger your edge up, and I just don't like doing that. That's how you use a simple router with a simple jig to make some pretty amazing results.